Isaac Cruz is a problem for anyone at 140 pounds. We've just come off a big fight over the weekend between Romero and Isaac Cruz. This was a fairly even matchup since they've both had losses to Gervonta Davis. And we just watched Isaac Cruz completely dismantle Rolly, walking him down every single round and eventually leading to the fight being stopped. And more so than anything, this was a test for Isaac Cruz, since he's been on a complete roll since his loss to Gervonta Davis, destroying all of his opponents since having some notable wins like beating Gamboa harder than he's ever been beat before. And Rolly, even though did lose to Gervonta, was still a decent prospect, so you could say this was a big prospect matchup. But the way Isaac Cruz just handled Rolly Romero was honestly just scary. I was watching the fight live and I honestly was starting to feel on edge for Rolly. I was starting to feel bad for him, to be honest. And it got me thinking, how would Isaac Cruz do against other top contenders at that weight? Well, yes, he lost to Gervonta, but he gave Tank the toughest fight he's ever had in his whole career. And out of all of Tank's 29 opponents, he's the second person who Gervonta was unable to knock out. Bearing in mind, the first time Tank went to a decision was a whole 10 years ago. And it's not even like it was a straight walk in the park for Tank. This was by no doubt his toughest fight. And although I do believe Gervonta did fairly win a decision, and it wasn't a robbery, it was closer than everyone probably expected. At this point, Isaac Cruz's career was born.
Even though he didn't get the win, our star was born tonight.
But let's jump into him as a fighter first and break him down. He was born fighting out of Mexico, and Isaac Cruz has been boxing from a very young age and has came up turning pro at a young age, fighting in Mexico, eventually breaking out into the US scene, in which he built a bit of a name for himself. After having some notable wins in the US against some good names, he then decided to call out Gervonta Davis, which after this fight basically took him to full mainstream. He's also the shortest out of all the contenders in the division, standing at only 5'4", but has still found a way to make it work with his relentless style of fighting. He likes to make it an up close and personal fight. His rugged style and explosive power makes him a problem for anyone, in my opinion, not to mention his iron chin. If Rolly Romero and Gervonta Davis couldn't put him down, I think it would be tough for anyone else in Division 2. I mean, look at the shots he was taking in that fight. Rolly was full on hitting him with everything he had and couldn't even move Isaac Cruz. He's still only 25 years old. I think he has a lot of potential to be a top contender in the 140 pound division. Not just because he has an aggressive style, but what I think a lot of people are missing is that he can box pretty well too. Obviously not as good as the top names, but he does have a very solid defense at times and is a decent counter puncher. And this is why watching him against Tank was like fire against fire. He has a pretty good shot selection, definitely a typical Mexican style. He also puts in great work to the body, having some effective body shots. We've seen him score knockdowns from working the body to allow his opponents to focus their defense on the body, in which he'll then quickly come up to the head and score knockdowns. And with 18 of his 26 wins coming from KO, his power is clearly no joke. Another thing I don't think accurately represents Pitbull's level is his record, since he does have 2 losses to his record. Obviously, we all know one came from a close fight to Gervonta Tank Davis, but what about the other? Well, it was a unanimous decision loss to a fighter in Mexico when Isaac Cruz was only 17 years old. So just because it was a blemish on his record, I think we can give him the pass, considering it was a whole 8 years ago and he was literally still a child. The thing is, in Mexico, many boxers can go pro from a much younger age than something compared to the US. And Isaac Cruz is a great example, turning pro at only 16 years old. So how would he line up against other contenders at 140 pounds? Well, honestly, I think he would give some of the top contenders some serious problems. I gotta be honest, I don't think he should rematch Gervonta, since if anything it would just be a clearer win for Tank because of Tank's IQ and ability to adapt, and I just think he'll be able to adjust even quicker to Pitbull's style since he's already fought him for the first time. Because I gotta be honest, Pitbull is a very one-dimensional fighter. Yes, a very strong and effective style, but still very one-dimensional. In my opinion, I think a great matchup would be between Devin Haney and Isaac Cruz, because of the fact that Devin probably won't have enough to put Cruz out or even keep him off him. We all say that Devin's pillow-fisted, obviously he's not, but against someone like Isaac Cruz, he might very much be pillow-fisted and won't even be able to keep him off him the whole fight. So it would have to be a very strategic fight for Devin, because one small mistake from him could quite literally be the end of the fight. I think Devin Haney could win that fight if he went 12 rounds and played it very smart, but you don't go throughout a whole fight without getting hit. So I probably would favourite Devin just because of his ability, but I'm still giving Isaac Cruz a very, very good chance if that was a fight to be made. As for someone like Ryan Garcia, I think Pitbull would walk through him. I say that because I think Ryan has a very similar style to Rolly Romero, in the sense that he's a very unorthodox fighter with big explosive power. We saw how that went down for Rolly.
Again launches the right hand, left hook, Romero takes the shot, still standing, referee intervenes.
Cruz was taking Rolly and Javante's shots like it was nothing, and we know that those two are some of the biggest punchers in the division. Obviously, Ryan probably could time him and maybe hurt Pitbull, but who knows? So like I said, I think his style will be a problem for any of the top 10 fighters in the division, and is definitely a future one to watch. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments if you think Pitbull Cruz is being overhyped right now, or is he really a future problem? Anyways, that'll be all. I'll catch you in the next one.